Hello F11 members and welcome back to the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 53, June 2017. In part 1 we looked at a conventional image and made a black and white conversion of it to try and give it a sort of infrared type look, just using the tools available in Lightroom. Well, this time in part 2 I'd like to look at a picture that was actually shot on a camera that has been converted to be receptive to infrared light only, and see what the post-production involved in this image was. So if you can see, this is the finished article in front of me. Quite pleased with this picture. I think it's got a lot of impact. I know the infrared look isn't everyone's cup of tea, but it's certainly catches the eye. Some great clouds that afternoon, and as you can see, I picked a moment where the clouds are almost framing the tree with the black sky, the typical look of the black infrared sky behind the white foliage of the tree. Right then, let's go through where I started with this picture, and if I go right back to where I started, how you import the picture, and that's how it comes in. Looks absolutely bloody horrible, doesn't it? It's all red and it's as flat as a pancake. So the first thing I'm going to do with this image is just convert it. Click on here, convert to black and white. Not an auspicious start because, as I said, really is flat, flat, flat. So what I do now, of course, is come to the actual look at the histogram, and as I would with any picture, start adjusting my black and white points to suit. And I'm bringing the blacks in until, sliding the black slider over until I start to get clipping. If I hold down the Alt slider, I see as far as I can go before clipping starts to appear, and it's way over to the left, minus 89 to be precise. I'm going to do the same with the whites, although infrared isn't quite like a normal image in this respect, in that I can only go so far. If you can see, if I move my whites to the right, what happens is the toe of the histogram moves so far to the right and then stops. So that's about as far as I can go. Any further and I'm just bunching up the whites in an area that they can't go to. So about plus 30 on the whites there. That's improved the image somewhat. It's given it a touch more contrast, but what I want to do now really is give it quite a bit more contrast, and to do that I'm going to resort to using the tone curve here. So let's have a look at this, and if I now pull the tone curve down, it gives it a lot more density. I'm going to give it quite a bit of adjustment here. I find working in black and white, generally speaking, my adjustments are much more severe than they are in conventional color photography, and in infrared they really are quite extreme. As you can see there, what I've done is first of all, pulled the tone curve down to the right to introduce density, make the picture darker, and I've also given it a inverted S shape to give me to introduce contrast into the image. And already you can see that what we have here is an image that is looking much better than when we started. If, for example, I compare the two, well, it's night and day, isn't it? Okay, let's go back and carry on with this picture. But of course, at this stage, we're still a fair way off where I want to be. Let's address the issue of clarity here. As you know, clarity is not a slider that I tend to use in my color work. very often at all. But this infrared look that we've got here, if I zoom in on the image, it's quite a soft type look. So I could take clarity out to replicate the look of infrared film, or I could put it in to just add a little bit of clarity, or I could do nothing. Okay, so in this particular case, I'm just going to put a touch of clarity there into the image. And there we go. I'm quite liking how this picture is coming together. Okay, next thing I want to do is, as I did with the color image, I want to darken down the cloud area of the image. But I do not want to darken down the landscape, really. That looks to me, well, round about where I want it to be. So what I'm going to do now is come up here again to use the brush stroke here on the right, click on that, and now if I use my square brackets key to make sure to get the size of brush I want, okay, make it a nice big brush, and I'm going to click on show mask overlay, and as before I'll make sure here auto mask is activated, and now paint in the area of the image that I want to affect. Okay. As you get to use this adjustment brush, you'll find out just how useful it is. And since I was doing those demonstrations for Adobe at the photography show, I put a lot more work into just investigating what can be done with this adjustment brush. And I must admit, I'm quite impressed. It's a really useful thing. So I'm just going to paint in here. The beauty of it is, of course, you can refine it to will. Okay, now I click off that show selected mask overlay there, and now I come in and I decide what I want to do to that area that I've selected. And essentially I'm going to dial in negative exposure here, and you can see it's just affecting that area of that I've selected. The clouds does quite a good job there. I'm going to put come up on my whites there. I don't want them to become too muddy, you know. So boosting the whites, but at the same time coming back on the exposure, puts contrast into those clouds. Gives the image a fair bit of drama and introduces contrast to those clouds as well. Maybe that's a bit too extreme. I don't know. I'd say somewhere about there. What do you reckon? It's not bad, is it? And it's certainly gives the image a lot of punch there. So come up on my whites a touch. Good. Okay, now if you look down here, I can see it click back on the selected mask overlay. It's incurring on the top of that vegetation a bit there. It looks ugly. So all I do is come down here, hit erase now, and I can paint away that area that I don't want selected. Very, very flexible. And down here as well. And down here. Click the mask overlay off, see how that's looking. Not bad, not bad, not bad. Okay, I'm just going to pause to consider where I'm at with this image. It's always worthwhile just stepping back and thinking about things for a bit. Just it's easy to go too far with adjustments, and that's exactly what I think I've done. I think I've given those clouds too much density to the point where they look muddy. We want drama in the image, but at the same time you can go too far. So I'm going to pull them back to about minus 30 on the exposure there. Okay, and now I'm going to click on done. So that's the adjustment brush done. What else do I want to do? I think essentially I just want to add a touch of tone, maybe just to the bottom of the image here. So if I come to my grad tool here, use the shift button and drag the grad tool in from the bottom. Using the shift button ensures that that grad tool is working level to the bottom of the edge frame there. And now what I'm going to do is come back on the exposure just a smidgen, okay, just to hold the bottom of the picture in, just the top and the bottom of the grad there where it starts and finishes. Okay, so I'm minus 34 on exposure there, and I'm going to put some contrast in as well. Quite a bit more on the density, and I'm done. Okay, so there we have the finished infrared image. So now let's just go back to where we were and compare the two images beside each other again. So in library mode, I've selected the two images that I want to see next to each other, and now I just hit the N button and it will show me what's called survey mode, the two images side by side. Now if I hit tab, we see them, we get rid of the panels down the side and I can see them full next to each other, same size, and it's quite interesting, isn't it, the look. It's still quite a difference between the two. The one on the right has definitely more of that classical infrared look. Look at just how white the fresh green vegetation is. Nevertheless, the image on the left is an interesting picture with definite traces, strong traces of the infrared look in there. Which is better is such a subjective call. I'd be interested in hearing your views on the topic, but I do know that even if you don't have an infrared converted camera, it would be quite fun and useful and interesting to experiment with achieving this look. Okay, that's it for this month. As always, we'll look forward to hearing your feedback and suggestions for topics for future fundamentals of post-production video tutorials. Thank you.